Welcome to a very special edition of College Football Express with one of the best rivalries, longest running games in college football in America. This week, we've got a top 11 matchup between Tennessee Volunteers, Alabama Crimson Tide, and I have two excellent guests here who know way more about both of these teams to dive right in. We've got Tucker Harlan covering it from the Tennessee side and returning champion Jackson Johnson, who's been with us before, covering it from the Alabama side. And Tucker, I'm going to jump right into it. Not your game prediction, but what's your boldest prediction for this game that might surprise people, that people should be looking forward to this weekend if you haven't been watching every moment of Tennessee or Alabama all year?
Ooh, boldest prediction. I don't know if this is bold. Bama will probably end up having its best offensive game of the season. I don't know how bold that is, but
Scary, maybe, for Tennessee fans.
Tennessee is very volatile on the defensive end, so it could go either way. I think defensively, you're at a little bit of an advantage on the road just because you can actually communicate with one another. But this defense is prone to allowing big plays, so that might be my bold take if you had to ask me of one.
What about you, Jackson? What do you think that people might not be expecting?
Well, for those that aren't expecting, I think you're going to expect to see Alabama have a combined of at least 120 rushing yards because the running game's been a little bit low this year, but you're going to see Ty Simpson run for some plays. You're going to see a little bit of Kevin Riley. You're going to be seeing a little bit of Daniel Hill because you're likely not going to see Jam Miller for this game because he's out with a concussion. So
I'm looking forward to this game probably the most out of, and there's a really good lineup this weekend. So outside of the fact that as a Miami fan on this national channel, I care about Friday night with Miami playing Louisville. This is the game I'm most looking forward to, both personally and just to see parts of my family fight with each other, since I have people on both sides of the rooting interest there. But again, this is the game of the week for us here on the College Football Express. First, I want to introduce Tucker Harlan and give you a chance to let everybody know about yourself and where they can find you. And again, thank you for joining us tonight.
Appreciate it, man. So I have a couple different gigs that I'm working right now. I am with Jackson over at the Voice of College Football Network. I host our Tennessee show. We do live shows every Monday night at 8 Eastern time. We also have post-game shows whenever Tennessee is playing. We had one actually earlier today because I was traveling back from the game, so I couldn't do one last night, but was able to do that. And yeah, you can find me there. And I also cover recruiting for Vols Wire, which is a USA Today affiliate. So cover recruiting there, both basketball and football. And I also cover some Vols and pro baseball, a little bit of Vols and pro football as well. So you can find my work over at volswire.com. And you can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Tucker Harlan, spelled out the way you see it on the screen.
Jackson, let everybody know where they can find you and what you do all the time here for Alabama.
Well, I am the Assistant Operations Manager of the Voice of College Football Network. I am the co-host of Alabama Crimson Tide Live Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central. I co-host Alabama Primetime Live on Tuesday nights, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. The Alabama Call-In Show, as Jeffrey and I take your calls, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, Thursday nights. And you can check me out on the Alabama Postgame Show on Alabama Voice College Football. I also host my own show, The Jacksonian, on Jackson Johnson 979 on YouTube. And I have Pits and Analysis, The Final Whistle with Sports Talk with Austin. And I also come in as a guest on Mountaineer Paul's show, Lockdown West Virginia, on Jackson's Take of College Football 3-4 times a week. And I call on the Paul Feinbaum show once or twice a week. However long that's going to be, where the weekends are full of surprises on SC Network. So I'm just all over the place.
Absolutely, especially that last one. Definitely been in the hot in the news lately, but we'll save that for other programs.
Tucker, so for more of my takes on Alabama football and much more, check me out on Jackson VOCF on /Twitter and on Jackson Johnson 543-908 on Instagram and Threads.
So we're about the midway part of the season. We've still got a lot of SEC conference games to play for sure, though, so a lot of wild stuff can happen. But Tucker, what is the state of Tennessee as a team right now? In your opinion, a super tough loss, heartbreaking loss, a game that Tennessee probably should have won earlier this year, but still extremely well positioned in the chaos that is college football in 2025. Correct me if I'm wrong, but currently in the AP poll at what, a number 11, right?
11. Yeah. So there is a symmetry between both the APN coaches poll for Tennessee sitting at 11 in both. And yes, you're right. They're well positioned at the moment. Something that we didn't know if we were going to see this year, just with the quarterback situation. Not that Nico leaving was necessarily a detriment, because I don't think he really helped out that offense. Did not have a surfer boy named Jerry Neuheisel to help him out in the offense in Tennessee. Apparently, Josh Heupel wasn't simple enough for him, so he left. But no, Tennessee could not have gotten it better in this little trade that they had with UCLA for Joey Aguilar, because not only do you get a guy who is, relishing an opportunity to play on a big stage, but you've also got a guy whose family is happy to be there. And that was one of the biggest problems with Nico's family. They did not like the fact that they were not getting what they wanted from a monetary standpoint. So, but the offense, I think we didn't really know what to think of it before the season began, just because there were so many new pieces. It's come together very well. I'll say that much. And that's having some injuries on the offensive line. Still hadn't seen much of the offensive tackle, David Sanders, who everybody was so high on coming into the season, but you've managed to cobble together a pretty good group up front. So that's been nice for Tennessee. Defensively, we thought this would be the strength of this team, and it hasn't. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is injuries. Tennessee has more or less been out, or just without its two best corners for all of the season. Ricky Gibson went out pretty early in the Syracuse game. Jermon McCoy has yet to play a snap because he blew out his ACL in a workout back in January. Defensive line up until last week has not been fully healthy either. So this group has struggled at times this year, and it's a little bit unexpected. But like I said to lead off the show, the defense is capable of making big plays, but for every big play, there's at least one or two busted plays of 20 yards or so that it allows. But overall, the state of Tennessee football, I think this is there's at least optimism there. But the team is not without its flaws. We'll just put it that way. So you're squarely in the race at the moment. That's something you can hang your hat on. But I would say there are definitely concerns out there.
How about you, Jackson? You guys now have a loss to open the season with Alabama that seemed wild at first, seemed to get better for a couple of weeks of like, hey, that was a good loss, whatever that really means.
Oh man, all I got,
and now it looks terrible again.
I know, right? Where it's like week one, all I was getting was phone calls about Kellen DeBoer needs to be fired. Kellen DeBoer needs to be fired. He's not like this. And I'm just like, look, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's week one, not week 11. Relax. What happened? Alabama's winning out. Get things rocking and rolling. Ty Simpson's got more trust in his instincts than he had in week one. I mean, like week one, he didn't run on 4th and 8. He threw to Ryan Williams, and Ryan Williams like juggled like hot potato on that one play against Florida State. Now you don't see that. Like in games like Georgia, Vanderbilt, and this Saturday against Missouri, you notice that Ty Simpson has more trust in his instincts than he did in week one. And, people going into Georgia week, they were saying, well, that's just easy win against Louisiana Monroe. That's just an easy win against Wisconsin. And now you see 3 straight victories against top 25 teams. You got Joel Klatt on Nets Round earlier last Monday, saying if his last name was Manning, he would be winning the Heisman Trophy already. I mean, the clutch throws you see him making against Missouri, the clutch plays you see him making against Georgia, you're going to see more of that as the season goes on. And I suspect you're going to see that on Saturday night on ABC against Tennessee Volunteers with, I assume, will be Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy on the call.
I would think that's probably going to be the call, and it makes sense.
And game day's at Ole Miss, Georgia, so I assume Fowler and Herbie are going to be calling Ole Miss, Georgia, and the dog
Right.
Peter's going to be there as well.
Yeah, that would be my guess. I haven't seen the official announcements. So Tucker, when you look at Alabama, one, how do you think Tennessee matches up? And is there a player specifically on Alabama? Let's like take out Ty Simpson for the moment that keeps you up at night, that you're concerned about, can really have a big impact on the game, especially as it relates to how these two teams match up?
Ooh, that's a difficult question because Jackson mentioned the Jam Miller injury, which is something that is intriguing because Bama, they've gotten better as the season's gone on. They haven't run the ball particularly well, though.
Right.
This would have been a big opportunity for Jam Miller to potentially have a breakout game against Tennessee, though. So I would have said him. And Ty Simpson, I think, is very good. He's from Tennessee. I actually know a handful of people that know him, a couple former teammates of his from Westview High School in Martin, Tennessee. Of course, his dad is the head coach at UT Martin. So, this means something to him. And I look at the receivers. Jeremy Bernard was one of the better ones against Tennessee last year. So that's one guy that I have in mind. I guess we'll just see with Ryan Williams, because Ryan Williams, it's like just not been the same with him since that Georgia game, has it? Because I remember they had Jermon McCoy matched up against him last year in Neyland Stadium, and obviously McCoy not on track to play in this Bama game. If maybe something changes on the injury report, we'll find out the answer. But if you just get somebody matched up with him like that, but it was a different case last year with Jalen Milroe too. I guess we should add in that. Because what did he have, like 8 catches on like 20 targets in that game? Mm-hmm. Just used as a security blanket the entire time in that game. So do not expect that this time around from Alabama. Although I will say they do like to get their tight ends involved. Josh Cuevas is a guy that I feel like could do some things to Tennessee. I just remember from years past, looking at Georgia specifically, Brock Bowers is obviously a bit of a unicorn, but they've had guys more recently like Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky who have gotten super involved in the game, and it's hurt Tennessee. So I think those are some guys you could be looking at. Maybe they use Caden Proctor at tight end again, which feels like a trend. Feels like a good trend that Alabama's got going right now with him, man. Like they make big gains whenever he's in the game.
It's almost a recruiting tool. Like it's like William the Refrigerator Perry from like way back when, the old Chicago Bears,
1985.
Except for Keaton's in better shape, but they still have the same bulldozing impact. Jackson, when you think about Alabama and you're looking back in reverse a bit to Tennessee, is there a player on the Tennessee side that stands out to you that you're concerned about how Alabama is going to handle offensively or defensively?
I'm worried about how we're going to handle Joey Aguilar offensively, and I'm wondering how we're going to handle Chris Brazil II offensively. And on defense, I'm looking at Arian Carter, because I'm wondering how our running backs are going to be dealing with him, because like the running game has been our weakness thus far, but we're going to get those yards up as the season goes on, especially when we don't have Jam Miller.
Yeah, for sure. Is there a player that you think maybe hasn't made a mark yet on the Alabama side, but you feel like they're ready to maybe make a statement or emerge, somebody who, a freshman who's been getting some play here or there, but hasn't had that breakout moment, but somebody for people who are paying attention more as the season's going on to watch for on the Alabama side that they haven't heard the name thrown out before?
Dijon Lee. If you hadn't heard that name before Saturday, well, you will now, especially with that game-clinching interception he had over Missouri. And if you watch Alabama at the Voice College Football, or, all the recruiting sites throughout the world of college football, you will have heard the name Dijon Lee. But luckily, this Saturday, that is one name you'll be hearing about on Saturday night on ABC, 7:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 Central.
And Tucker, what about from the Tennessee side? Is there a player that's captured your imagination that maybe, even if you watch games, they haven't heard their name called yet, but you think they're ready for a breakout moment, perhaps in this game against Alabama?
Yeah, so it's funny. The offense, I feel like, is relatively discovered at this point. We don't know what the running back situation will be like this week because Deshaun Bishop took a pretty nasty hip drop in the third quarter. He had a great game up until then. He just he went down on that tackle pretty awkwardly. So I guess you could pencil in Peyton Lewis there at running back potentially. He had 2 touchdowns late in the game, only went for 33 yards, but that's about it on offense. Defensively though, I'll give you one. And he had a good game this past week. He's been getting better as the season's gone on. As Jordan Ross, 5-star kid. He's out of Alabama, actually. Somewhere, I think either around Birmingham, maybe Anniston. I forget which. But that he had a strip sack yesterday on Taylor Green where it was the first one of the game. He stripped him, and then he just grabbed the ball from right underneath the ground. So made a play there, and then he made another big play to force a fumble in that game. Him and Idris Farouk teamed up on one later on in the game on Braylon Russell, one of Arkansas's other running backs. So on the defensive side, and I think as a whole, Jordan Ross would have to be my guy for Tennessee.
So you guys both do a ton of coverage for your teams. So let's say it's 11 o'clock next Saturday night, game's over. If you're having a happy post-game show and your fans are all thrilled because you won, Jackson, what will you think have been the reason or the way the game went that created an Alabama victory?
The performance of Ty Simpson, the receiving core, and the running game getting a little better. Daniel Hill stepping up, Richard Young stepping up, and Kevin Riley stepping up as well. And Josh Cuevas being that X factor for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and LT Overton stepping up his game on defense like he did against Bo Perbula on Saturday against the Missouri Tigers.
What about yourself, Tucker?
So limitation of explosive plays on defense, I think, has to be one because this team is capable of getting in the backfield, getting after people. It did last year against Alabama, and I think it could this year too, potentially. The offensive line has not exactly been a strength for Alabama. So I think you can get some hits on Ty Simpson potentially. So that, and then Joey Aguilar has got to weather the storm, I think, is the other thing that you have to look for if Tennessee is going to get a win in Alabama, which it's not been able to do in quite some time. It's been
since 2003 in Tuscaloosa, which were the dark ages of the internet. No YouTube back then.
Yeah, well, because I knew that because it's as long as Tennessee's losing streak at Florida. But the thing is, Tennessee is cursed against Florida. Bama's just been better than Tennessee. That's just all I
always feel like the piano is going to fall on top of the head against Tennessee anytime they're in Gainesville. Like for some reason, I don't know why.
No, it always happens. I was at the game in 23, man, where they were. Florida was not good that year. They're 5-7, and Tennessee just
watch this game be a win or be fired game for Billy Napier,
and he'll weasel his way out of it. You saw it against Texas. It can happen,
and he did it against Ole Miss, and he did it against LSU last season.
Yeah. He can't survive the recruiting trail very well against some of the top competition, but he does escape the axe with some victories. And I will give him credit that his team, unlike some others, does not quit on him. They do fight for him, and there is something to be said about them. That's about as much credit as I'm willing to give the Gators, but I will give that to them.
But there is one thing that Josh Heupel has that Billy Napier will never have. Bobby Hiller is.
Yep.
You look at that King of the Hill reboot, and you think to yourself, oh, my God, that's Josh Heupel. That's who Bobby Hill looks like. Amazing.
Yeah. Billy Napier is just Jeremy Pruitt with more intelligence.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
I always badmouth Phil Farmer because I've got nothing nice to say about him, but you'll never hear me say anything negative about Josh Heupel in my life.
Hey, Fulmer was a close friend of my family once upon a time.
Well, in that case, I'll be nice for you.
Feinbaum and him did not get along either, apparently. Some words were said at an SEC championship game. I think it was, what's his name? Pat Smith, who does radio down there in Birmingham.
Oh,
He called them a very nasty word that I don't think I want to say on this show to their faces. Yeah.
Wait, you're going to tell me that Paul Feinbaum has some contentious words for people at times? Like, I literally never would have thought it. And shout out to everyone who hasn't seen or heard the Paul Feinbaum that wasn't just on the SEC network, the nice version.
Tennessee alum Paul Feinbaum, let's keep in mind, political science alum Paul Feinbaum from the University of Tennessee. Did write for the Daily Beacon, but technically the college can't claim him because he wasn't actually a journalism major.
Oh, wow.
Man. Before we
man.
dive back into the game, would be negligent to not have both of you kind of comment on how you see where the SEC is right now, halfway through, and how you think this game impacts it. Is it an essential game that you guys have to win? Can either of your teams lose this game and still be in a good position for the Southeastern Conference by running the table, just based off the nature of maybe some pending carnage? So, Tucker, what is your sort of state of the SEC and how this game fits in from the Tennessee perspective?
Yeah, so you've only got one unbeaten team left in the SEC, if I'm not mistaken now, and Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is doomed to fail at some point. It's Lane Kiffin. It's going to happen. We know this too well. And it could happen next week. It'll probably happen in Oklahoma, if I had to guess. But overall, man, the state of the SEC, it's the most competitive the league's been in a while. And I think people misunderstand the Big Teners in particular. Misunderstand what the SEC looks like right now, because there's no juggernaut. Like, Georgia is not a juggernaut currently. Alabama has lost its juggernaut status. You have a lot of really competitive teams in the league, and they're good football teams, but there's nobody that's really breaking away from the crowd. Nobody's absolutely terrible either, I wouldn't say. I'd probably say Kentucky's the worst team in the league, followed maybe by Auburn this year. But overall, I don't think either of those teams are the worst SEC teams I've ever seen by any stretch of the imagination.
Sure.
So it's a competitive league. And if you drop two, it's probably going to get you in. Like, Miami was the only team that missed the college football playoff last year that won 10 games, if I'm not mistaken, at least in Power 4 ranks. So, you get, if you lose this game, you're looking down the road. Tennessee does not ever lose at Kentucky, or it doesn't lose to Kentucky much ever, unless it's just totally incompetent. The only 3 times that's happened are in the last 40 years. They're in my lifetime. It was Derek Dooley in 2011. You had Butch Jones 2 weeks before he was fired in 2017. And then COVID Jeremy Pruitt telling the offense it needs to tackle better in 2020. So they do not lose to Kentucky when they are competent. So I don't think Tennessee loses that game. Obviously, you got New Mexico State on schedule as well. That's a win. But the other 3 games left in SEC play that I haven't mentioned that are past Alabama are Oklahoma, Florida, and Vanderbilt. Now, Oklahoma is a team that it's very personal with Josh Heupel. His relationship with Oklahoma is a complicated one. Obviously, a legendary player out there, but the Stoops family, I think, has caused a little bit of a rift between him and his alma mater. So he takes that game pretty seriously. And, he doesn't lose at home either, unless you're Georgia. Outside of Pittsburgh and Ole Miss in 2021, Georgia is the only team he's lost to at home at Tennessee. So, and I would assume that will probably be a night game, and Tennessee will probably be wearing the black.
Yeah, and Florida, Georgia is likely at 2:30 that week.
Yeah,
but,
I think it may have already been scheduled for 2:30, but yeah, It's gonna be an electric environment in Neyland, that's for sure. That's one of the bigger home games this year. And then we already mentioned Florida. Like, things can go wrong at Florida for Tennessee. We know a thing or two about that. So that could be a place where Tennessee definitely picks up a 3rd loss. But Vanderbilt, man, you got to be motivated to come out and beat up on Vanderbilt. Just with everything Diego Pavia has said. I think Alabama taught him a valuable lesson. You know, it's bad when Tennessee fans are torn on who they need to root for between Vandy and Alabama. They should hate Alabama more because Vanderbilt is an afterthought typically. But the way they're talking out there, and in West End. It's so bizarre to see them have a competent team and a guy that's using his voice like that out there. So I think they will. He doesn't know how to play with a target on his back. That's the problem, and that's what Bama taught him. I think Tennessee's going to teach him that too. So there are definitely places where Tennessee can lose games after Alabama. So losing this game, losing is never ideal. It's not the end of the world, but you would not want to drop this game. I don't think.
No, you
And how are
don't.
you feeling about things, Jackson?
Well, it's like Tucker said, if you lose the Alabama-Tennessee game, it's not the end of the world. As we saw from Texas, Oklahoma last week, it's not the end of the world if you lose that game. You know, all those people say, oh, Oklahoma's out. Well, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because look at 08, look at 06. Was Oklahoma out of Big 12 title contention because they lost to Texas? No. They lost to a god-awful, pitiful Texas team in 2015. Were they out of playoff contention? No. They won out. And that's what I think can happen for the Sooners. I think like Mateer wasn't 100%. They let him just kind of go in when they knew for a fact they shouldn't have. They should just were like, you know what? We're going to go with our backup QB for this one. Mateer, you bust our butt for us. Let us bust our butt for you. But it is what it is. But I think we're going to really learn about the meat and the bones on who's going to be the top 4 teams of the SEC by the end of November. But by the time we get to mid-November, we'll have more of an answer. I don't think we're going to have an answer this week with Alabama, Tennessee. But I think when we get to the second Saturday of November, we'll have more of an answer on who the best 4 teams are in the SEC. Because if you get into the SEC title game, you're automatically in the playoffs. You're just in a battle for the bye week. And it's the same case with the Big Ten. But if you're in the ACC, I think if you're basically the 2 best teams, you're in the playoffs, you're just fighting for a bye week. But the Big 12, you're fighting for a spot to get into the playoffs.
Right. Yeah, that's how it feels like it's shaping up. I do want to thank Tucker and Jackson again for joining us. You can catch them both on the Voice of College Football Network, among other places. All that information will be linked in the description below. You should definitely check them out, regardless of whether you're an Alabama fan or a Tennessee fan, because they just do great coverage of college football. And it's pretty impossible, no matter how you feel about the SEC, to not be aware about the things going on in the SEC, especially with these 2 teams, if you're trying to figure out how your team, how your conference is measuring against what's going to happen the rest of the season into the playoff, whether you're Power 4 or G6, or you just like the damn sport in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, agreed. There is one thing I would love to see Alabama and Tennessee do in my lifetime when they play one another. Ready for
I know
this?
what it is. I think I know what this is.
So you know how in 1965, 1966, and how the last time was 1970 was the last time both teams wore home uniforms? Please let this happen. I'm going to be pushing for this throughout the week.
Jackson, Lane Kiffin wanted this to happen, but Nick Saban said no.
I love Coach Saban, but good grief, Coach. Come on,
That sounds petty, though. That sounds like Nick Saban would be, the fact that he knew that Lane Kiffin wanted it to happen is exactly why he would say no.
Ugh.
Then again, that was before he was
I'm
on
not the
staff
world's
for a moment,
craziest about Kiffin, but I would agree with him on that. I will put aside about who I dislike or what I dislike and all that. It's for the best of the rivalry, for the best of the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry. Hey, who knows, Tucker? I think like one of us will have to report to Bart, just be like, hey, heads up, we're going to smoke a cigar on the postgame show.
Yeah. I think one of us is going to be doing that. I don't think it's going to be me, though. There's no chance I'm going to end up smoking one, because I don't feel very good about our chances. Going to say it in a
Well, that leads into the last question there.
Gonna say it in a quiet voice, but I don't. After what last week, I don't feel good.
Do you have a game prediction? Like, when you say you don't feel good, do you feel bad, or you just think you're going to lose close?
So here's the thing, and I've already mentioned the defensive woes. All right, that's not the only thing that bothers me about Tennessee right now. And you have to give credit where it's due with Josh Heupel. He has brought this program out of the darkest years in its history. You have to acknowledge that he's done that, and he's great at running a football program. I must say that he's kept the ship pretty clean at Tennessee in his 5 years so far. But the in-game stuff has not been well managed for quite some time. You know, it was rough in Tuscaloosa in 2023. I was at that game, and I guess all those, you know, failed 4th and 1 attempts by Tennessee in that game, it must have just done something to him to where he don't want to experiment with that stuff anymore. And just some of the in-game situational stuff from Tennessee this year has been poorly executed.
Like the clock management against Mississippi State.
That one is the worst one. People point to Georgia, and that was bad, but Mississippi State was far worse. Mississippi State was far worse because you had the ball with 2 minutes and a chance to score, and you just let all kinds of time go down with timeouts at your disposal. You won the game, so less people are going to talk about it. And then this week too, I mean, you look back at the Arkansas game, end of the first half, not well managed at all by Tennessee. You're up 17 points late in the game, and you know you have a chance to. And I get it. You're on the other side of the field, and it's 4th and a couple yards, but you're at the opponent's 40. You could potentially end the game right then and there, but you take the delay game instead. You punt the ball to Arkansas. I kind of get, you know, the idea of wanting them to run the clock off more in order to score. They still scored quickly, though. So, no, I'm not on Josh Heupel needs to be fired tomorrow train by any means. I think he's doing a good job. But just some of this in-game situational stuff has got me pretty bothered about this team. And he's also on the road at night against quality opponents has been a disaster for Josh Heupel teams as well. I should mention that. And not even quality opponents, like funky road losses. Bama would not be considered a funky road loss just because they're the number 6 team in the country. Let's just call it like it is. But you look at how he's done on the road in some of these games. Georgia last season, Ohio State, Georgia the season 2 years prior. Second half of Bama in 2023 was bad. Mizzou 23 was bad.
Oh, man, y'all got chewed up like a chicken.
Yeah. So it's not been good. And I think that is one thing that does make me worry other than the defense. And defense is coaching too. Let's call that like it is. But in-game management from this coaching staff has not been where it needs to be at the start of the season.
Well, Jackson, based off of Tucker's feel for how this game is going to end, I'm going to assume that gave you some probably additional confidence that you probably already had, and we'll wrap it up with what's your take? Where do you see this game being when the clock hits 0 on Saturday night?
It's going to be another victory for Alabama in Tuscaloosa against the Tennessee Volunteers, and I think the losing streak in Tuscaloosa continues for the Tennessee Volunteers. Because there's just going to be something. Like there's going to be some type of clock management issue for the Volunteers. I don't know what it is, but something's going to happen. And I think it's going to be a really tight game. I've got, as of right now, Alabama winning 28-24.
Well, that would be an awesome game to be watching as somebody who has no rooting interest, because both of you guys could possibly be in the playoffs and against teams that I root for.
Oh, my dude, you're going to be in for a treat because you're going to be flipping between Alabama and Tennessee, Utah, BYU, and Notre Dame, USC. 3 great rivalries in the world of college football. Like you're going to be.
Thank God for YouTube Force Box, man. That's all I will say about that.
Yeah.
I want to thank both Tucker and
the Peacock app.
And that as well, and a separate computer screen to do that. And that is literally my setup on a Saturday. I do want to thank Tucker and Jackson again. Follow them on social, follow their channels here on YouTube, descriptions below. If you're new to the channel, please consider giving this video a like. Tell all your friends that 2 cool guys were talking about a great game this weekend. And if you like enough what we're talking about, consider subscribing to the channel. With that, again, looking forward to a great game, Tennessee and Alabama this Saturday night. And subscribe to College Football Express, college football at full throttle.
Let's get CFB Express to 1,000 subs, everyone.
I would love that. YouTube, you're a pain in the ass, man.